we're very lucky. Oh, I can't hear you again. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's so much that I moved here and was like, I can never leave because there's just like endless, like celebration in the city. And, James, the owner of the distillery, I mean, I think that's why he named the distillery Celebration Distillation. It was to honor the spirit of the city and to create the cocktails and rums that would embody the celebration of the city.
Right. So, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the founder there, because I think that's a very interesting part of, obviously, the company. Kind of gives some of the from what I've been reading, is the passion and how it ties his background in art, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the I think, I don't know if I want to call it like a cool surprise that's inside the bottle that you have to look at. So, but yeah, can you talk a little bit about James?
I would love to. So, James Michalopoulos is one of the most incredible human beings I think you could ever meet. He's dynamic and he's unique. Like, he's one of a kind. And that's kind of the way he lives life, like one of a kind. Like, he's an inventor, a creator, an artist, and he creates products from that artist's heart and from that artist's spirit. And so it was in the early 90s that he took an artist approach to making rum. And he did that by collecting and using repurposed dairy equipment to plumb and pipe and put together this kind of homegrown distillery in the early 90s, on Frenchman Street in New Orleans. And he was working with musicians and brewer friends, people that he was, hanging out with over on Decatur Street, having coffee with, and said, hey, I've got this idea. Let's build this together. And to this day, I've never seen another distillery that looks like ours, because he created it from that artist's spirit with other artists and artisans. And that's what he continues to do inside of the product development here at Celebration Distillation. And that's where the product Gingeroo came from. Gingeroo is a spicy ginger cocktail with cayenne pepper, and it soared to be our #1 product over time. It's sparkling, it's carbonated, and there's nothing like it. So that's like who James is. He creates these very unique products that just didn't exist. Now, while cocktails obviously existed and bottled cocktails existed, they're really, became popular in 2000, the late 2000s maybe, and became very popular, over the last 10 years. And James started working on that product, also in the 90s. So he tends to be ahead of trends also, which is something that's been really fun in working with him. As someone who is a partner in the business, it's nice to have someone who's so creative, leading the way of innovation.
Right. And it's something on the website there. It says, we are the art of celebration. So, which is really cool.
Oh,
the
and he's so much fun. He throws the best parties. And like he just loves people so much. He's like, it's all about the people, you know?
right. So that I'm sure that was pretty hard for, and we'll talk a little bit about obviously the distillery, but as well as yourself, and then probably for him as well as this past year being in lockdown and distancing, and for probably obviously I would imagine he's what you described as an extrovert, so being away from groups of people probably been very difficult for obviously for him and as well as you too. So
Oh, yeah. I was just on the phone with my colleague, and I'm like, do you have your vaccine yet? Like, I really want to see you. I miss you so much, you know? I mean, these are people that I used to see every day, and now we meet on, Zoom meetings. And
right.
yeah.
So the distillery started, as you mentioned, in the early '90s. So this is 1995. James had started the distillery. Obviously, it's still the oldest still making rum distillery in the U.S. Right down there, and the surprising part, Katie, for what I think a lot of folks, when I've done doing my reviewing, is a lot of people realize that, wait a minute, this is New Orleans, and there's no other rum distillery even back then. Even though it's in the part of the Delta, the area where cane, I think Louisiana is second to Florida in making cane, and so it was like kind of really interesting that he went that approach and to get into rum making rather than other popular spirits in the area there. So again, as you mentioned, the craft cocktail. You talk about a little bit your journey there through from how you started out and then how you got to become the CEO.
Well, I'll just mention that James started making rum specifically because of all of the sugarcane in Louisiana. So, hey, there's someone at the front. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
So Louisiana is the second largest sugarcane producing state next to Florida. So it was actually a very natural thing for James to go after making rum. And a lot of friends have said, why not vodka? Especially in the 90s when it was like all the rage.
Right.
Why aren't you making vodka? And he was like, we're the home of sugarcane. Let's make a really delicious rum. And then maybe we'll go from there. So rum was a very natural connection right off the bat. And who knows, maybe we'll make other things down the road. What was your other question? How did I get connected with the distillery?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I started working in the spirits industry in New York City in like 2007. And before that, I had worked in, cocktail bars and was very passionate about cocktails. And being very passionate about cocktails is what brought me to San Francisco, to New York, and to Los Angeles, and then ultimately New Orleans. But once you become passionate about cocktails, you become passionate about spirits. And that's when I started working in the spirits industry in 2007. And then when I came to New Orleans, I simply applied for the job. And they were looking for somebody to lead the distillery, and I applied, and we met. And New Orleans is really it's funky town, right? We're so funky. And so I met him. I met James at his art studio, which is like very chaotic, like an artist's brain, So I met him in this environment. We spoke for hours about what's possible in the industry. We hit it off right away, and we've worked together ever since. Right. And that was, I think, in 2013.
So that's very cool. So how so still taking your passion for the craft cocktails, right? So in how it do you tell us how obviously why that's important, the relation between the obviously the the spirits and the craft cocktails. You can make a product, but again, why it's important to be able to let people know here's the type of cocktail here's how to make a cocktail that you will enjoy our product.
So I think your question is, what is the relationship between a great cocktail and a great spirit, and how do they work together?
Right. Yes.
And goodness, well, so before I moved to New Orleans, I actually worked at a rum bar in Los Angeles called Kanya Rum Bar, and I lived on a sailboat in Marina del Rey. So I went there for a little bit after my time in New York to kind of like chill out. I went to LA, I lived on a sailboat, I worked at a rum bar, and life was good. Life was really good. And I made, mostly rum, cocktails there, and drank all kinds of rum every day, always tasting, always sharing, always talking about rum. And I brought that spirit with me to New Orleans, which is, I think, so it's no coincidence that I ended up, where I am.
Right.
But, working in that bar and trying many different rums in a daiquiri, something as simple as a daiquiri, lime and sugar. A daiquiri has such a range depending on what rum you use. It can take on the personality of the spirit. So as we make our rums, I'm always looking at, will this make a good daiquiri? Will this be good in the most simple of recipes and the most complex of recipes? And I think everyone that makes spirits looks at their products from that angle. Is like, where is this drink going to go? How will it be best enjoyed? And they'll curate the notes of the product based on where they think, people are going to be enjoying the drink. And so for us in New Orleans, that can be in a hurricane. It's definitely going to be in a daiquiri, shaken or frozen. We definitely love a frozen daiquiri too. So it's important to look at what is going to be mixed with your spirits and make sure that they complement each other.
No, and I've always I did a little bartending in or when I was much less gray, and I still always think that a daiquiri there was more to it than just 3 ingredients, and that's why I always was so, I guess, I don't know if scared or just kind of like, no, there's more to this. There's, again, frozen daiquiri, again, depending on where you work, obviously not in probably places that you bartended or made craft cocktails in, is just dump the pre-mixed stuff, throw your rum in there, put it in the ice in the blender, and there you go. And there's more to it. Just 3 ingredients. No, there's something more to it. And sure enough, and that's actually what I'm having here right now is a daiquiri, very simple, made there with some lime juice and then this simple syrup. I can't say that. All right, I haven't even finished the first one there, so I'm getting of the crystals. So, so I think that's really, to your point, most people may trial and error their cocktails, or probably even making spirits, but obviously with your background and experience knows what certain things will go together, or certain things of acidity or sweetnesses to kind of put the right mixing of different cocktails and that people may have never ever tried before.
Mm-hmm.
So excellent. So we see you're there at the distillery. So can you describe the distillery and what all happens on a typical day?
Well, our distillery is on Frenchman Street in the neighborhood of Gentilly. So it's like a mile or two outside of the popular part of Frenchman with all the clubs and the shops. That's about a mile and a half down the road. But we are on Frenchman Street in Gentilly. We've been here since the beginning. And this warehouse was originally held cotton. It was an old cotton warehouse. And it still has a lot of gorgeous, wood beams and features throughout, and original brick. So it's a really beautiful building. And then inside of it, we have 3 stills and 3 fermentation tanks, molasses tanks. Like I said, all of our equipment was repurposed dairy tanks. Louisiana had a very robust dairy economy that kind of shrunk and consolidated in the Midwest. So with dairy farms kind of going out of business, James was able to reuse a lot of that equipment. So it's very unique, in that sense. So what happens in a day? Well, we give tours. We have a really fun tasting room, and we have tours 3 times a day, and that has been the heartbeat of our business for a very long time. Being New Orleans, having visitors come to the city every day, and trying to really share who we are and who the city is with people is a huge passion of ours. And it's fun. It's fun sharing, rum with folks from around the world. So we've had a lot of fun doing that for 25 years. And we've continued to do that as much as we can over the last year. It might look a little different today than it used to, but we've adapted, and we still have people at the distillery every day.
Excellent.
We're running the stills, and we're making ferments just about every day. We're open 7 days a week, and we have a couple fantastic distillers. Anthony Whiting is our head distiller currently. He's on paternity leave. He just had his 3rd baby. He just has a new son, Emmanuel, who's born 11-pound baby.
Wow, congrats.
Okay, so we're so happy. We have a big baby in the family. And then we have another distiller, Maudie Ainsworth, who's here today, and I hope I get to introduce her. Maudie is incredible, and she focuses a lot on the ferments, and so she's like a master fermenter, as well as distiller. So they are the production team right now. They're superstars. I'm so grateful to work with such talented and loving people. We really have a good crew over here, and that's so important to us.
Yeah, and on our previous podcast with Karen from Montagna, very much similar about overseeing the employees, the people that work at the distillery there. It's like a family. Everyone looks out for each other, treats each other really well. And again, it's hard to if you ever have transition and bring people in and out, but it's great that you have longevity. So what's your longest or tenured employee?
This is Maudie. I just want to introduce her real quick, and she's wearing her Louisiana Distillers Guild t-shirt.
Oh, there you go.
This is so cool.
Excellent.
So I just wanted you to get to see her a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah. This is Paul. Oh, Paul, it's nice to meet you. This is Paul, and this is a live recording.
There you go.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah,
hello.
we're all YouTube famous.
We're awesome.
So that's excellent. So
I just wanted to have a minute to meet her.
Yeah.
So, well, at this point, gosh, my colleague Heather Munch, who has run the tasting room, is probably the only employee that's worked here longer than I have at this point. And Gavin Kress, who I think has worked here for over 10 years, and he's here too. He's also a distiller. And at this point, our whole team is mostly trained to kind of do everything, distilling, running the tasting room, kind of across the board.
Yeah,
so we have a couple team members who've been here over 10 years.
Wow. That's and are they all Louisiana native? Or some of them?
Yeah, I think Heather and Gavin are both native.
Okay.
Maud is originally, I believe, from Oregon, and Anthony is also native.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
He's
cool.
from. Yeah.
So they know, right? It's homegrown and from natives, and that's cool. So you're talking about the distillery there, and you mentioned tours. So and you also offer a shuttle service to the distillery from the downtown, around the touristy area there. So if I was staying in New Orleans, how would I get the shuttle to pick me up?
So the shuttle is one of the things that we paused during COVID, but we hope to have running again this summer. But right now the shuttle is not running due to some of the changes during COVID. But usually our tour bus picks up at the Organic Banana, which is a killer daiquiri shop in the French Market. And it's on the lower end of the quarter. It is right next to the New Orleans Jazz Museum. It's right next to Louisiana Pizza Kitchen, which is a killer pizza shop that showcases a lot of James' original artwork also. So that little section down by the river, at the far end of the quarter, the lower end of the quarter, is where we do the shuttle pickup.
No, that you can't beat that if you have a little too much. And that was my so totally didn't know what I was getting into when I came into New Orleans that one time I told you, and I landed at the airport and I didn't rent a car, and Lay says, "Oh, you need a bus pass." I'm like, "No." It's like, and I didn't know, and I realized, oh, I have to buy this because the airport is nowhere near the French Quarter area and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, okay. And it felt like we were driving forever down the highway to get to where we were staying down in a corner of Canal and Bourbon Street. So I guess right at the start there, the Crown Plaza. That's what it was. We stayed there. So with New Orleans being a hot spot for visitors, tourists, and especially Mardi Gras, what kind of challenges have you faced during the pandemic, or what have you done differently, as you mentioned, like with the tour bus that you had to pause?
Well, to think back a year ago, almost to today, it was like almost exactly a year ago, probably this week, we started making hand sanitizer at the beginning of the pandemic. And we made as much as we could possibly produce. We had a line out the door all the way down the block for weeks. We were donating hand sanitizer left and right. We were giving it away. We were just like getting it out there. That was the beginning of the pandemic. And I have, a 4-year-old daughter. So I was home with her, she wasn't in school. And it was so interesting, never in a million years did I think someone will come to the distillery to buy a bottle of Gingeroo, a bottle of Cajun spice rum, and a bottle of hand sanitizer. But that's how it goes now. So fast forward, that's like a normal day. Like you said, people come in and they taste rum and they leave with rum and hand sanitizer. So that happened. I learned very quickly the ins and outs of the hand sanitizer production and the industry itself. And I did that in partnership with a lot of other local distilleries. We were all kind of figuring it out together, which is a memorable experience. There was a lot of camaraderie within our industry. And that's kind of how the pandemic happened. Luckily, all of our team members have been healthy, and that was one of our biggest concerns throughout the last year was, can we stay open and keep our team healthy? What is the comfort level? What is our comfort level? What is their comfort level? And we've been negotiating, every day, kind of, always reevaluating where the city's at, where the virus is at, where our team is at. And so it's been a year of just like working together very closely to doing our best. And we're so lucky that we're still open. I mean, like not everybody is going to make it through this. And we're so lucky to still be here. I'm so grateful.
And that's really interesting that you mentioned about, the other distillers in the area kind of all getting together and talking to a distiller here in Florida who was getting into the hand sanitizer business, or not business, but the need, right? Answering the call. And they said there were some other challenges from whether the regulations and certain things, and I don't know if you kind of face some of those too as well. But that camaraderie, where I think the single most thing, at least probably in our lifetime, that unfortunately, other than maybe something to do with a war, unfortunately, but that everybody kind of came together early on, right? We all didn't know what to expect, and we all had to help each other out, and it's been probably one of the it's amazing what you can do when people become hyper focused, right, on a problem like that. So that's interesting. And to your point is, how do you make sure everyone's comfortable with safety of your employees, and then as well as your customers as well too. So that's interesting. So not non-pandemic, but so what are some of the challenges that women face in this industry that men don't?
Oh, interesting. Well, it's so funny. When I got pregnant, I was like, can I work in a rum distillery? I'm a pregnant lady. Like, how's that going to work? I was like, well, how is this going to go? And James, my boss, was like, it's going to be so great. We're going to put a playpen in your office. We're going to hang out with the baby all the time. Like, he was more excited about it than I am. I was like, oh my God, no, I need, like, she's going to daycare. Like, it was so, but I have to say, like, I don't know that every woman has a boss like James that is like so stoked to have a baby around and is so like compassionate. That's definitely who he is. He also has a daughter that I think is like 12. And so all of our daughters have been able to like kind of grow up together now, and it's been wonderful. But that's something that's always a concern for women. We have babies, and working in a distillery, like, you can't drink, when you're pregnant, like there's all that to deal with while running a rum distillery. So that's something that women definitely deal with. Not all women choose to have children, but for those that do, that's a challenge. And then, I distinctly remember going to a distilling conference, and I've been to many, but I grew up with 3 brothers. So I'm used to being around a lot of guys. And I guess because I have 3 brothers, I kind of was like, okay, that's just how life is, And when I would go to the distilling conferences, it's mostly men. I'd say it felt, I don't know the numbers, but it felt like 95% men. And when you see a woman, you like gravitate to her, like, wait, who are you? Where are you from? Tell me everything, And it's kind of fun to, like, when you get to meet other women in the industry and you get to connect, you get to bond. And that has been it's been a fun experience. Like, I'm definitely close with the female distillers in Louisiana. And it's nice to feel that camaraderie there with the women. And I guess men probably, I can't speak to this exactly, but I'm guessing men don't have that same thing where when they go to the conference, they're like, where is more people like me? Because most everyone there is like them.
Right. Yeah, it's probably a different, it's a different kind of bond because there's, more men or of than obviously, like you said, women or other folks that are people that are everyone's always going to kind of gravitate to something of similar, of like that. So yeah, so I guess that's a challenge or something that men don't understand. It's just one of those things that it is there, and it's a different kind of bonding than maybe a little bit more to somebody similar to yourself or person. So yeah, I guess that's an interesting too. So let's talk about the products here. So I've got here with me is I picked up 3 bottles. I was, like I said, I was traveling through Louisiana, and I was looking for something that obviously I couldn't or didn't have back home. And I said, all right, all right, if this was made here, I said I'm gonna buy them all because again, who knows when I'll get a chance to. And that was sometime last year before I started learning more about the company and then even some of the bottles. So one of the things though, Katie, is what's interesting was I had first, so I had not opened them for quite some time. I had first opened up the Cajun one, and I had it with a guest who was from Cameron, Louisiana. So I broke the seal on that one. Had him try the Cajun rum, and then the other two, the amber and the crystal, we had only just recently cracked that one open. This past weekend, one of our rum reviewers, Jami from Ready Set Rum, I joined him for a rum review. He does rum reviews and different products, and so coming here probably within the next week or so on his YouTube channel, you'll see our rum review that we gave it, and it was definitely something a different style than he used to. So I think you'll definitely get a kick out of our rum review and hearing how his thoughts on the rum too. All good. So. And so forth. So the you want to talk through here? We'll go from, I guess, would be from the crystal first.
Yeah. So all of our products start with the crystal rum. So the crystal rum is just our polished distillate. So it kind of goes into our process. We take a B-cut molasses is what we use to make our rums. And we choose that molasses because of the flavor profile and because of the notes that come out in the polished distillate. And it was actually back in 2013 when I tasted our polished distillate coming out of the still. And I said, this is so good. We don't need to put anything else in this rum. Like, let's drink it as it is. And it is so delicious in daiquiris. When you mix it, that's when you can add the sugar. That's when you can add the lime, but let's give people our quality spirit, and then they can do whatever they want to it. So we're so proud of the quality of that product, that we love how it tastes coming off the still. And that's so important to us. So there's nothing added to our crystal rum. It is as it is off of the still, and we take that crystal rum, and for the amber we put it in barrels, and for the Cajun spice we steep it like a tea with the different herbs and flavors. So or I should say spices. So with the Cajun spice rum, we take that crystal rum and we add chicory and vanilla and a little cayenne pepper and ginger, and we spice it up. Now, we don't spice it up like some other brands traditionally. We'll use a lot of vanilla, and we have a delicious vanilla that we use, but it's not the predominant flavor of the spiced rum. So it's still, you're going to get the notes of our crystal rum in the spiced rum, but we're adding, a very unique list of spices to flavor that rum. And we make it like a tea where we let it sit for several weeks and infuse. And for the amber rum, we use a variety of barrels. So our barrels, we've been open 25 years, so we don't currently, I think currently our oldest rum might be 17 years. Katrina happened, that shook us up a little bit along the journey. We did flood, and so we took 11 feet of water, and so all of our barrels under that 11 feet, we could not use, we could not sell, and they were classified as damaged during Katrina. So that put a wrinkle in our barrel planning, etc. But the barrels that we do have are a mixture of oak barrels, whiskey barrels, cognac sherry barrels and Madeira barrels. And coming from, the cocktail world, I love sherry and Madeira. And so it's been really fun to play with those barrels and try new things. And so the amber rum has a blend of rums from those different barrels. And depending on the drinker, your favorite might be the amber, or it might be the spiced, or it might be just a daiquiri with the classic crystal rum.
Right. So
that's a little bit about those.
Katie, have you ever thought about doing a barrel swap with another distiller, a rum distiller?
We have not. We have not. We've not. Mostly because we're kind of busy, kind of playing with our own barrels. we stay pretty busy over here when it comes to the product development and experimentation department.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That sounds like a fun department to be in.
It is. It is a lot of fun.
So what would you say is sets old New Orleans apart from other rum?
Well, first of all, I would say there's a sense of place. The brand is Old New Orleans rum, and the sense of place of the city was the reason that James started the company in the first place. It's a expression of the soul of New Orleans and of the community of New Orleans, and the products are designed to be of service to the people here, to be of service to Mardi Gras, to be of service of festival life. Festivals as a lifestyle versus an event. Like we live like every day, we're a part of that. And so these products were designed to fuel that, to participate in it, and to help create and really stand for a community and a culture that celebrates, life well lived in spite of circumstance, in spite of flooding or bad roads. We still get out there, put a costume on, have a sip of some rum, and dance. So that's what sets us apart. And like I said, molasses flows here, so it's like a no-brainer that we're making rum. It flows, and I think that we didn't really have to try. Like it was always meant to be that there would be this rum distillery on Frenchman Street.
Right.
Is
Old New Orleans rum pretty much the main rums that are in most of or all the establishments, or since you've been around for a long time, the name, and so if you go into almost any establishment that serves cocktails, would you find your rum do you have that footprint, I guess?
Our rums are everywhere, and so is Gingeroo. They are everywhere, and there's always places that we could be. We're always out there with new places opening up and things like that. And while we are the oldest, we've been around 25 years. There's more distilleries in the city and in the state now than have ever been. So where we used to be the only local rum at the grocery store or in the bar, there's now 12.
Wow.
And so it's an exciting time to be a taster and getting to taste all the different flavors. And, it is also more competitive. So it's, bars don't have room for 12 local rums. They're going to pick one or two. And so we definitely have to still do our work, because while we've been here, 25 years at the bars and the restaurants and the shops, the team there hasn't necessarily been there 25 years.
Right.
So we have to go back and keep reintroducing ourselves, over time. The work never ends. It's fun work to do. At least there's that.
Yeah, and to that point, it's good to have some may say, when you have others in your in a space or competition or whatever, it's good because then it kind of helps, push and to keep developing. Rather than being very complacent and so forth. So before I go, and again, and that's a beautiful way you described what sets you guys apart, because I think here, and let's see if I can find, and I know it's going to be hard, it won't be able to come across on the camera, but that is really unique here. The inside label here in the bottle. Like I said, I don't know if I can get it on the right camera shot here, but for those who can see it somehow, so is that another one of James's kind of clever, kind of creative ideas here to put some of his some of that artwork in on the inside?
Yeah, it is. So each of the bottles has a painting, one of James' paintings on the inside of the back label. And that is a nod to, his artwork, but mostly it's about what the city is. It's colorful shotgun houses, row houses lined up next to each other. And so the product is all about really capturing the city in all of its, beauty, in the image, in the flavor, in the touch and feel of the product. Yeah.
And and that's an awesome thing to set some of the part. Again, most people initially probably wouldn't. It's hard to tell with a full bottle of the amber to see what's on that label, but obviously with the amber or the crystal, and then the Cajun a little bit. But as the bottle gets emptied, which I guess is a good thing, you start to see that, and you're like, wow, that's kind of a very cool thing that you have something a little different, rather than again, you guys put a little bit more effort and thought into it rather than just slap the label on. And so again, it's I said I again had the bottles for a while, and only realize this the other day when I took a look at the bottle. I says, wait a minute, there's artwork on the inside of the bottle. So it was very cool. So you mentioned Gingeroo. So what?
Oh
yeah. So let's talk about that.
Let me show you Gingeroo. This is Gingeroo. It's a 750 milliliter bottle with a swing cap on the top. And it's a kind of a yellowish neon green. And it's low proof, 10% alcohol. It's the crystal rum. And we just add fresh organic ginger juice, some cayenne pepper, a little bit of sugar, water. We carbonate it, and it is delicious. It is so good. It's definitely it's easy to drink. It's definitely spicy, so you have to like spice. You have to like some heat. But generally in New Orleans, the palates are a little acclimated to peppers and spices and stuff. So it's designed to be refreshing. And I mean, I drink it on its own, but you can definitely add some whiskey in there. If you're a whiskey drinker, you can put a splash in, or you can put some, amber rum in there and make like kind of a dark and stormy kind of cocktail. Okay. So there's things you can do with it. You can even heat it up in the winter to make like a hot toddy. It's delicious. But it's essentially a bottled cocktail, but it was created, like in the late 90s, kind of before craft cocktails were booming, and definitely before bottled cocktails were booming.
Right. And you said it's carbonated, especially way before the big carbonated craze of now things that are coming out in cans or whatnot. And so that's way ahead of your time there. So I obviously, if I haven't been traveling through Louisiana, what's the best way I probably can get buy some of the products?
Well, let's see. I mean, our products are all over at, the the little boutique spirit shops like the Vue Carré in the French Quarter. All the chain grocery stores have our products from, Winn-Dixie to Bromart to, there's a place called Paces, which is like a cool little local chain. And yeah, so any wine and spirits shop, any grocery store, various bars and things like that.
Okay. And can we order it online?
Unfortunately, not at this time, but I am working on it.
Okay. All right. Looking forward to it. You let me know as soon as that happens. But then again, you can twist my arm and come back to New Orleans to bring some home, right?
Yeah, you definitely need to come back soon.
Yes, for sure. So and something there to kind of wrap things around about the products is that we talked about Louisiana being the second most sugar or molasses producer here, and you source everything all here locally, source in the Louisiana area, right?
Yeah, I remember the first time I went to one of the sugar refineries out in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal industry, the sugarcane industry. And I was very happy to hear it was a very green operation. They use their byproducts to make steam, to heat the machinery. It's a very green business. And I was delighted to see that, especially at the scale for which they produce. It's incredible. And what's so interesting about their business is they were we've been using steam since before there was electricity, so they were we were a green business before you could even not be green, you couldn't even not be green when we started this
right.
Facility. And I just thought that was so cool.
We were green before green was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating. And that's something I love about old industries, manufacturing, right. Old world living. I find it so fascinating.
Right. It's many people before us have done all sorts of things, and so whenever we look back and say this is hard or whatever, say, well, hey, they built the pyramids or they built something or bridges that are or whatever, and without the modern the Hoover Dam, without modern technology and tools and so forth, and yeah, it's kind of cool to kind of puts things into perspective when you kind of mention it like that way. So as we get kind of wrapping up here, Katie, so I got a little bit of it's a little fun I don't know, it's not a game, but a little fun part of the show where usually with the drummers it's called in 4 beats or less, but you are not a drummer, but you are, unless you're a drummer, you are a drummer, but you're a rummer, so it's called actually in 4 sips or less. And these are basically a yes or no or first thing that comes to mind kind of questions, right?
Okay.
So what's something people don't know about New Orleans?
Oh, gosh. What do people not know? What do they not know? I don't know. I mean, when I look back to when I first came, I feel off the bat, the community is so tight. The community is so rock solid in it together. And I don't know if you know that until you're living it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think you kind of, and it's an interesting thing. I know we kind of didn't talk too much, but I think it's an interesting part. A lot of people forget because it's been over 15 years with Katrina. That, again, how much it impacted your business. You talked about you had to throw a lot of products away. You guys were shut down for a year and still came back around, right? You didn't kind of say, oh, well. And I think probably what I would think that what you mean by that is I think people in New Orleans and Louisiana as a whole are very resilient people. Very hard,
Mhm.
again, to, hey, we've had this happen, get through it, and everybody, rallies around and kind of helps each other out, and especially after something like that. So, but
Yeah, we care a lot about each other. And you know a thing or two about hurricanes living in Florida.
yeah,
So, yeah, you know.
let me knock on wood. I gotta find the real wood. All right, I'm gonna knock on the drumsticks. That's probably the only real wood I've got right in front of me, though. But yeah, for sure, for sure. So okay, so that's a good one. So so again, I was gonna ask you this question here, but again, he apparently threw me for a curveball. I was gonna ask you, is Drew Brees going to retire or give it another year? And what did he do the other day? He retired. So
Yeah, he did. Oh my gosh. And he made this, I read this beautiful quote that he said he's going to spend the rest of his life trying to give back to New Orleans as much as it's given him. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this guy is the best. He is the best.
And all of us that live here in South Florida kick ourselves when we passed on him when he had opportunity to sign or bring Drew Brees to Miami. But yeah, I know he's done a lot. He's even though he's I don't think he's originally from Louisiana, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So, but he's embraced the city and made it like like he was one of their born sons there. But yeah, he's done a lot of awesome stuff. He's really super good guy. So I think it was a pretty cool picture that I saw. It was after Tampa played the Saints during the playoffs this year, and they were showing Drew Brees' son was playing catch with Tom Brady or vice versa, and it was like, in anyone else's world, it'd be like, it's mind blowing to kind of think like how cool that is, but yet to them, that's kind of their life that they live around. They know each other, but it's like you're playing catch with Tom Brady, So, but I know they have a lot of admiration for each other too. So, but all right, so here we're gonna, and I forgot I skipped over a little bit about music, so I want to come back around after we get through this. But so, which music festival? New Orleans has lots of music, as we talked about, right? So, the Voodoo Music Experience or the Jazz and Heritage Festival?
I have to say Jazz Fest. I have to say Jazz Fest. Yeah, I have to say Jazz. Yeah, hands down. Hands down.
Okay. And now James has been a featured artist there, right, for the festival. Is that right?
6 times.
Yeah. So that's pretty. Again, it's a cool festivals where it's also not just music, but it's also the culture of that, and that comes along with the jazz. So, all right. So when family and friends are in town, where do you recommend a place to go to dinner?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, that's a big question. When I first started coming to New Orleans, I'd stay at the Monteleone Hotel, and right across the way is the Green Goddess. And I love the Green Goddess restaurant. I mean, they only have like 6 tables outside in an alley. It's gorgeous, and the food is like incredible because it's full of flavor. But they also cook with a lot of unique and local ingredients, and it's not necessarily your like Cajun or Creole food, but it's a lot of Cajun and Creole flavor in unique dishes. So I really love the Green Goddess. And the Pelican Club right across the way is also a fantastic restaurant. That's where I go for like a fancy dinner. I always get the whole fish. It's another incredible spot.
Excellent.
But there's a huge list. We could do a whole podcast just on that.
I know it's one of those points of the universe there, and you've been in a lot of the big cities where there's a lot of great food. And one of our previous guests was on he's worked with the House of Blues and was able to travel around to different cities, and how Chicago, New York, and I think he did a little bit of time in New Orleans. And so again, talking about the different styles that they have, obviously in each city, so and so forth. So let me come back to music there. So I know when we were doing our pre-show chat there, we were talking about music that you were kind of into at the moment, and it was the Sufferers. And again, not her had heard them before. Again, there's so much. So don't anybody's listening, don't hold it against me, because there's so much new music out there that's very hard. But again, when somebody you meet and they mention some other music that it's not in your path, and they just kind of throw it out there, and they're like, and you go listen to it, and you're like, oh my God, these guys are great, when I checked out that song that you referenced, I was like, there's just her voice is just awesome, right? And I think it's Cam. I think I might be wrong, but yeah, it was such a great uplifting song there by the Sufferers. And again, I know they're they're Texas based, man, but they're just so energy. Again, as you mentioned, why you listed that during this time of this over the past year we've gone through. But yeah, I mean, so what other music or again you want to kind of go into a little bit more about the Sufferers?
What are some music that I like besides the Sufferers?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like the Lost by You Ramblers, I have to talk about them. I feel like I should definitely talk about Sweet Crude, which is another great Louisiana band, and Machia Lake and the Little Bighorns. I mean, all those three are people that you could see regularly playing at the clubs on Frenchman, on Bourbon, nationally and globally. They travel and they bring Louisiana sound, everywhere now. I'm so excited for them and their success, and feel lucky that I could just walk across the street and see them too. So what I love is their big bands. They're big bands with lots of string instruments and things like that, and bold tones and voices. I mean, it's very cool.
Yeah, you can never underestimate the power of horns and in amongst any band, because again, it gives such a different feel of horns or something like that. And so I'll probably give you the example is I went and saw the Roots play here in West Palm, and I think it was, I don't remember what year now it was, but it was Prince had just recently had died, and we have a big festival. Well, nothing compared to New Orleans, but we have our local festival here in West Palm Beach called Sunfest, and they performed here, and I was like, again, big fan of Questlove, and have known about the Roots before they were even on Jimmy Fallon's show, and I told my wife, I said we're going, and of course, I was so totally focused in on it, and I watched the whole thing, and these guys did not take a break. I think they played for almost 2 hours, and they just played, and it was May, and so it was very hot already, and Questlove's wearing a jacket. I don't know how he didn't die of heat exhaustion, but they played for I think 2 hours straight, and I felt like I was at some religious experience, because again, there was so much energy, though, like you mentioned, the horns, and but the Roots they're just an awesome band. So, but it's so awesome. So yeah, so hopefully once we all start getting our vaccines and the herd immunity and try to get back to normal. I know everyone's itching to go back to seeing music, especially there in your city, huge music city. And but as you mentioned, things are starting to kind of come back to a little bit more open. Obviously, people still need to kind of be careful and so forth. But so. Katie, so in closing, what advice or inspiration can you share for those, who are looking to pursue their passion?
For those looking to pursue their passion, in spirits, kind of generally speaking,
I think in general, generally for women's month here is kind of as as a CEO of the company.
Ah.
Yeah.
Advice to pursue your passions.
Or just in general,
I
maybe in
mean,
general, maybe.
man, I think you gotta like follow your heart, and not. I think you gotta just really follow your heart. That's what brought me to New Orleans. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't. I left like a big hotshot job in New York City, and I came here with nothing. And I was just following my heart. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew I love this place, and it's where I wanted to be, and these are the people I wanted to be with. And then I became the CEO of a rum distillery. Like, I couldn't have dreamt of a better opportunity, So that was just me following my heart. And it's no coincidence that I met another person like that, James Michalopoulos, the kind of person who followed his heart and has fortunately seen a lot of success along the way. But it's only by really following his artist heart, and my art is people, if I'm being honest. Like, I love people. And that's what this whole experiment of life and rum and New Orleans is about for me. It's the connection of, the humanity. And so I think that if you just do what's true to yourself, whatever the results are, will honor your spirit.
Excellent. That's awesome. And again, this is, when it comes to this, it's the spirits and what we love about it, whether it's like we talk about the music or whether it's sharing a cocktail or spirits. It's a very much a social thing, and to be able to share, and that's something when I started out originally with the podcast, I really wanted to be everything was more in person. I got 2 episodes in, and then lockdown happened, and then I had to figure out how to do this, remotely, and then it's like, well, there's it's different, right? And to be able to be in person with somebody and sharing the stories and chatting and sharing a drink or two. So, but yeah, the connections, I totally 100% agree with that. So that's awesome. So Katie, anything we try to folks to check out or need promotions, or what do we need to kind of tell the listeners to
I'm just gonna say, come to town. Come visit us, and when you feel safe, when it's healthy, just come visit as much as you can. We love you. We want you to be here. We can't wait till you come back.
Awesome. All right. So I'm looking forward to it. So there you go. You get an open invitation from Katie. And then again, if you go do this distillery tour, go down and go to the daiquiri stand there and get your tour bus, pick you up and bring you on over. And who knows, maybe some of you may actually just decide to stay there permanently in New Orleans. It draws you into the Big Easy. So I'd like to thank you, Katie, for coming on to the podcast and talking about rum, your passion, your story, your journey. Sounds like, you got an awesome, great place. Thank you for introducing to some of your employees there as well. And I love the little bit of the tour we got there while we're on the Zoom here in the background. So this episode will be available on all your favorite podcast locations on Thursday, March 25th. Also, tune in to our next live stream podcast with our drummer Angelina later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Check out the event on our Facebook page. She's a young up-and-coming drummer here in South Florida, so looking forward to chatting with her. And then please check out Drums and Rums podcast and give it a like, follow, subscribe, all those, whatever we now call it. As also, there's other great episodes out there to check out. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to YouTube pages, visit the website, and make sure you go check out, if you're to get a little bit more information about Celebration Distillation and Old New Orleans Rum. Go to celebration-distillation.com, if I can say that, and also www.oldneworleansrum.com as well too. So that'll take you to both to the websites there. So check out more to learn about a little bit more about them And so follow them on Instagram. They got a lot of great stuff that they've been posting up on Instagram as well too. So again, I thank you, appreciate Katie. So this is thank you all. Have a great day. This is where the backbeats meets the spirits. Thanks all.